Nintendo and Capcom released a new creator's voice video speaking with Resident Evil Requiem director Koshi Nagashi, and he had some very interesting things to say about the Nintendo Switch 2 system itself, and of course about Resident Evil Requiem, which is coming out this week as of the time that I'm recording this video. That game is probably going to be really good, but what's exciting about this is what he exactly said about the Nintendo Switch 2 system, which got me thinking about what we could be getting next from Capcom when it comes to Resident Evil. My man Stealth also put out a tweet talking about that very thing, so we're going to get to that, but I want to get into what he had to say about the Nintendo Switch 2 first. But before we continue on, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. All you have to do to enter is hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and drop a comment below. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 once we hit 150,000 subscribers, and it will be random. So the more that you actually comment and interact, the better chance that you have to win. Hit that like button, click that notification bell, and let's go ahead and jump right back into it. Nagashi said this in the creator's voice video from Nintendo. Nintendo Switch 2 has improved graphical specs, so we wondered if Requiem could run on it, and it did, with ease. When we, the development team, first saw it in our hands, we were skeptical too, so we had to do a triple take. We thought to ourselves, oh, is this really running on Nintendo Switch 2? It all worked so smoothly that we decided to just go ahead with the game as is and make it for the console. With specs like these in handheld mode, it looks great. So he also talked about game chat and some other things that you can do. He discussed the game itself, and actually a nice little tidbit at the very beginning. He talked about how he's always been a Nintendo fan and that The Legend of Zelda 2 Link's Adventure actually inspired him to create a certain enemy in Resident Evil Revelations that had a shield that moved up and down, just like Link had to fight enemies that had shields that went high and low. So pretty cool, nice little tidbit there. But talking about what he said with the Nintendo Switch 2 itself, the fact that they were able to get the RE engine, the full RE engine, not making a custom version for it like they had to do with Monster Hunter Rise, but the full aspects of the RE engine on the Nintendo Switch 2 and running good in seemingly what looks like 60 FPS, maybe with some dips here and there, but still running pretty good, is exciting for the future of Capcom games and for the future of what they could be doing. Now, of course, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and Resident Evil 9 are all launching. Some content creators were able to go live with their reviews in some websites with Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, and it looks like both of those also run and play really well on the Nintendo Switch 2. So now you get a true dedicated portable experience, not having to use the PC version on a Steam Deck or on like a ROG Ally or something like that, but actual dedicated portable version of Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and of course Resident Evil Requiem. But Resident Evil 7 apparently runs flawless. Resident Evil 8 has a few frame rate dips when it gets super crazy, but for the most part, rock solid 60 FPS running and looking smooth. So that is all great. That's what I felt that Nintendo needed when it comes to building a true successor to the Nintendo Switch 1. They needed that extra time, they needed that extra development, and they needed to really plan things out carefully because, well, yeah, sure, you can pack a bunch of tech into a handheld platform. You got to think about a lot of other things. You got to think about the price of the system. You got to think about the battery life of it. You got to think about the internals and how hot the system gets. You got to think about the fans. There's so many different aspects to it, and I think that Nintendo probably came the closest and best out of all of the hybrid or handheld console type systems that are out there. Nintendo Switch 2 probably has the best balance of price, power, and just overall scope of what it can do because it comes with a dock, it comes with the cables. You can easily dock it, play on TV, and instantly transmit it back to play portable mode when you take it out of the dock. It's just really well executed, and I think that's why you see a lot of these developers coming out and saying that they're going to be putting their games on the Nintendo Switch 2, especially the Japanese developers. Now, it doesn't hurt that the Nintendo Switch 2 has a lot of systems sold already, and in Japan, it's just completely dominating the charts, so I think that was also in play too. But this also leads to another thing that Capcom is probably going to do, because my man Stealth put up this tweet talking about the recent creator's voice video, and Stealth said, I predict within the next few years, so few is about 3 years for most people, maybe 2-3 years or so, Capcom will port Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, remakes to Switch 2. And I think it's actually going to be sooner than that. And the reason why I think it's going to be sooner than that is because of how easy they were able to get Resident Evil 7, 8, and Requiem, the newest game, with the latest tech and with everything that they're trying to do, maxing out the game. They're able to get that on the Nintendo Switch 2 fairly easily, like Capcom already stated here. So Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, they're probably already done or pretty much wrapping up the final touches for those games to come to Nintendo Switch 2. I don't see Capcom waiting that much longer to get out those games. They're going to have Resident Evil, I think it's Resident Evil 0 in addition to Resident Evil Code Veronica. Both of those games are getting remakes within the next 2 years. I think Capcom is going to have those games on the Nintendo Switch 2, but I think that they probably want to get out Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 before those ones come out. So I would expect Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 to come out or be announced this year sometime. I wouldn't really put it past Nintendo and Capcom to have it at a fall Nintendo Direct, and maybe it launches early next year, or even an announcement at the next Nintendo Direct and it launches in the fall of this year. But I do think that they want to get those games out more sooner than later, simply because, once again, they have other big remakes coming out when it comes to Resident Evil. On top of that, these games are already old, be it that. So you want to build on that momentum, and if they're able to get those ported over as easily as they were with Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9, it doesn't really make too much sense waiting 2 or 3 years to get the ports out for 2, 3, and 4 when you're probably going to be on the next major Resident Evil or right around that time, plus a bunch of other Resident Evil remakes coming out. They do want Resident Evil to come out frequently, so I expect it to be announced this year and come out this year, or announced this year and come out next year, but I don't see it really going past 2027. So for those that are looking forward to Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, I already played Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, but 2 and 4 in particular, I love those games. 4, that's the game that I feel is the best one out of all the Resident Evil games. I love Resident Evil 4. It's my favorite one. Resident Evil 4 Remake is awesome. I played it on my PlayStation 5, but I only played it one time. So if they put Resident Evil 4 Remake on the Nintendo Switch 2, I'll definitely go through and play it again and do the extra content, because I didn't do any of that stuff. I just did one professional mode run and that was it. So I'll definitely play it again on the Nintendo Switch 2 and kind of engage in some of the extra content, just like the original Resident Evil 4 had a bunch of extra stuff to do. I'm not really too big of a fan of Resident Evil 3, but I did play Resident Evil 2, but I played Leon's campaign, but I didn't really feel like getting chased again on the second campaign, so I just decided to just drop it after a bit. So I might go back and finish that up, but for me, Resident Evil 4 would be the big game that I really want to play on the Nintendo Switch 2. And it looks like the Nintendo Switch 2, with the RE engine, with the specs that it has, will be able to handle those games with no problem. So it makes complete sense that they'd be able to run efficiently on the Nintendo Switch 2 with Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4. So what do you guys think about what Capcom had to say about Resident Evil Requiem, in addition to the Nintendo Switch 2 specs and the potential for Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes on the Nintendo Switch 2? When do you see Capcom dropping those? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here. We've got a first for a Nintendo platform. From what I understand, this is the first time ever that Bethesda will release a mainline Fallout game on a Nintendo platform. It did not happen on the Wii, obviously. Did not happen on the Wii U. Did not happen on the Nintendo Switch 1, but it's happening on the Nintendo Switch 2. And we've got new details that the game will run. There's different modes. They've got a 60 FPS mode, they've got a 40 FPS mode, and maybe they even got a 30 FPS mode. I'm not really sure right now, but they do, according to the official Bethesda account, they have a 60 FPS mode and a 40 FPS mode. So some of those crusty graphics maybe you were seeing when they first showed off this game, maybe that was a little bit of an old version of it. I have to take a look once we actually get like the digital foundry and all that stuff that's going to come out with the game. We'll see how good the port is or not, but I'm very happy that there's actual good extra modes in this one where you can get a 60 FPS or even 40. More developers definitely need to do 40 FPS, so it's absolutely a good thing, and once again shows why the Nintendo Switch 2 is significantly better than what Nintendo had in the past, because within the first number of months on the system, within a year, there's already been mainline Final Fantasy, Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, Fallout, and so many other franchises like CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk and more coming over. That's essentially what people can expect now at this point. Back in the day on the Wii U and even the Nintendo Switch, you had no idea what third-party games were going to be possible or what would happen. The Wii U days, it was essentially just the launch and that was it. Third-party support absolutely evaporated. Like, it was just gone after the launch. And with the Nintendo Switch 1, developers had to wait and see if the system was going to do well before they decided to support it. And the strength of the system was a play into actually getting certain games. And they were very tentative, but they ultimately ended up porting some stuff over. But with the Nintendo Switch 2, it's been a consistent release of big third-party games and big third-party announcements, getting games like Fallout 4 and getting them in pretty good quality when it comes to a 60 FPS mode is fantastic. And this is what I envisioned for Nintendo to have at some point, even back in the Wii U days. It was rough back then, but now at this point, you can expect games like Fallout 4. You can expect games like Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. You can expect the new 007 game that's going to be coming out. You can expect Indiana Jones. You can expect so much more than what we had before. And it's just great to see as someone who's been covering Nintendo for a very long time at this point. What do you guys think about Fallout 4? Apparently right now, it is running at the #2 best-selling game on the eShop, right behind Mario Tennis Fever. I will double check for you guys just to make sure, but either way, I know it's higher up on the board, and it's very good to see that, just because once again, third-party support is going to be very valuable to Nintendo going forward. They're going to have to make sure that they get good third-party support. And I know that not everybody loves all the different third-party games and people buy Nintendo platforms for first-party games. Absolutely. I pick up Nintendo platforms for first-party games as well. That is one of the best things about the system. But trust me, you want to be able to get a lot of these other types of games because Nintendo's not going to be able to supply first-party games that you want to play every single month of the Nintendo Switch 2. Games take longer to make. Nintendo's development teams are definitely working on games when it comes to a variety and type, but they're just going to take longer. So you're going to have other things that fill in the gaps. They've been trying to use Nintendo Switch 2 editions. They've been doing different things like having some of the smaller games kind of come out in between, like Dragon Drive, or maybe other games made by other third-party developers that have the Nintendo first-party publishing type of thing. So that's going to happen. But in between all of that, you also need the big third-party games to kind of help fill the gap as well. That really helps out, and I think that it makes the system way more appealing compared to what we had before in the past, because there was nothing on the level of a Fallout 4, with the exception of maybe Skyrim. I think Skyrim and Doom did come out on the Nintendo Switch 1 at the beginning, but that was so many months later. With the Nintendo Switch 2, we've had big AAA games like Cyberpunk and more, Street Fighter 6 from the launch and all the way throughout, on top of AA games like Trails in the Sky and really high quality indie games like Hollow Knight Silksong and Hades 2. So it's been a significantly better third-party outing for Nintendo, and this Bethesda drop first here, and then of course more Bethesda games coming with Indiana Jones and coming with other stuff as well. I think Oblivion, the Oblivion remaster, that's also coming too, and I do expect them to do Doom the Dark Ages as well. I expect that to be announced like at a Nintendo Direct, like a bigger one. So I think that this is a really, really good start to the third-party lineup for Nintendo. And I knew that that was going to be more of an emphasis with the Nintendo Switch 2. If they're going to have some success being able to play these type of games anywhere that you want, like Fallout 4. Believe it or not, I know people weren't excited about the announcement online as much because Fallout 4 is old. But man, in the Wii U days, man, I remember Pete Hines, Bethesda guy. He came out and was defiant against the Wii U and said, we're not going to be putting Fallout 3 on the Wii U. We're not going to do that. Why would we do that? Nintendo, they didn't really talk to us about the system or anything. So that's where we went from. We went from Pete Hines going on the bonus round with Jeff Keighley to sit there and say, we're not supporting that system, to just saying, hey, we're going to be at a Nintendo Direct announcing it with all the content, and it's coming in 60 FPS and 40 FPS modes. Man, how times have changed. This is, like I said, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Fallout anymore, I did play Fallout 4 on the PC, put 50 plus hours in. I have it on the Xbox One and the free update and all that. I think it's an okay game, but for me, I'm just happy that there's a variety for people to play. A lot of different types of games, from third-party developers to first-party stuff, and this needs to keep up, man. We need to consistently get the third-party announcements and games, in addition to getting Nintendo's first-party content as well. So I'm excited for this year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a lot more big announcements for the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to first-party games and, of course, big third-party games. And great to see 60 FPS and 40 FPS modes as well. So what do you guys think when it comes to everything that we talked about here with the Nintendo Switch 2, in addition to some of the third-party games and what's happening here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.